This is CBC Here and Now.
The town of Paradise is cracking down on roadside basketball nets, and that's landing like an airball with some hoop-loving families.
It's kind of sad that I can't play it. I still like to practice, but it's not as fun because I can't shoot.
Did you ever play basketball on the street when you were a kid?
No, down in Hermitage where I grew up, there weren't paved streets.
That story coming up.
Being outside and being able to do stuff, you know what I mean? It clears my head, I'm able to think, I'm able to learn.
This greenhouse is not in a nursery or a backyard. It's at the Correctional facility in Clarenville. How gardening helps the women there, I'll have that coming up.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. We'll get to those stories shortly, but first, a couple in Conception Bay South says they're blindsided when their son was dismissed from his daycare. The parents say there was no warning and now it's a race against the clock to find care, and there's a lot of competition. Here and Now's Heather Gillis has that story.
The daycare has heard some.
When Yao and Julianne Antwiajay moved to Conception Bay South before Christmas, it meant moving daycares too. After a few months, the couple says they were called into an emergency meeting and without warning told their 4-year-old son had to go. They say he had some minor issues like crying during drop-off and difficulty transitioning between activities. But the parents say they were presented with news stories in April, told their son nearly pushed a worker down the stairs, that he wouldn't put on snow pants to go outside. News to them, they say, with no incident reports or documentation.
But we also do feel like it wasn't handled in a professional manner and the steps that should have been taken were not followed.
The family feels the claims are exaggerated and says their son had no issues at a previous childcare centre.
We kind of feel like some of these daycares are taking advantage of this current childcare crisis in Newfoundland.
The 4-year-old, they say, was the only child of colour at the CBS centre and suspect he felt different but was unable to express those feelings.
I strongly feel my son was discriminated against at that daycare.
Mom, Julianne, is a nurse. She's meant to return to work next month, but says that won't happen without childcare, and that feels like an impossible mission.
And when I called to see where they were on the list, on the wait list, they said they had no more wait list. They got rid of the wait list. That there was hundreds of kids on this wait list, and it just got too overwhelming.
She feels daycares are picking and choosing between which kids they want to accept, and with the clock ticking on her maternity leave, there's a lot on the line.
I've already been off on maternity leave. They don't have to approve me any more time on paid leave. I could lose seniority, my pension. There are a lot of things at stake here.
Their son's dismissal comes as some children with exceptionalities have been dismissed from daycares due to a shortage of staff and inclusion workers. Yao says childcare should be affordable for families, but also accessible.
You're solving one problem and then creating another. So I will urge the authorities to look into this whole thing holistically and make sure there's a balance between access and affordability.
Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
The former president of Memorial University has returned an Inspire Award. That's an award described as the highest honor the Indigenous community bestows upon its own people. Vianne Timmins accepted the honor in 2019. News that she returned it was first reported by the Independent website on Sunday. Inspire confirmed the award was returned in an email to CBC News, but has not elaborated on any details. The move comes following a CBC News investigation that looks into her statements on her Mi'kmaq ancestry and her past membership in an unrecognized band. Timmins has stressed she has always been careful to make the distinction that she has Mi'kmaq heritage but does not claim an Indigenous identity. Days after that CBC investigation was published in early March, she took a leave of absence as MUN's president. Less than a month later, the university's governing body removed her from the position. Well, a town on the northeast coast is taking steps to become more dementia-friendly. Twillingate is aiming to be a place where individuals and their caregivers are supported. A committee has been created to educate town council, staff, and residents on what dementia entails. The mayor says the need for education is greater than ever.
We have an individual on our committee that has a loved one diagnosed with dementia. So she was kind of giving us stories of her own life and some incidents that had taken part in our own town of Twillingate, and things you would not have known or things you may not have never heard of if you were on this committee. And it opened your eyes. It opened your eyes to the fact that I don't think we're where we need to be in terms of education of the members of our community on what dementia looks like, how you may be able to identify it, how you can respond to somebody with dementia, and some things that businesses and organizations and groups in town can do to make their facilities or their events more dementia friendly. Having a support system in place for these families and having events that are dedicated to people who have dementia and allowing that community to grow and support each other is where we needed to move.
So what else can businesses and communities do to better support those living with dementia? We dig into those specifics with the mayor of Twillingate. That's ahead in about 20 minutes on Here and Now. Well, basketballers are being bounced off the streets in Paradise. The town says safety should take priority over the tradition of playing sports on public streets. But the crackdown has some families crying foul. Here and Now's Terry Roberts reports.
On Yellowwood Drive in Paradise, basketball nets are about as common as lawn sprinklers. That's because this street is home to a lot of young families like the Janeses. Thanks to their dad, basketball is in their blood.
It's definitely a family thing that we do.
But these days, they're shooting hoops in their backyard, dribbling on grass. That's been the case since a warning notice like this was taped to their roadside basketball net last month, with a threat of further action if the net is not removed. It happened all along Yellowwood Drive, a quiet, dead-end street, and other streets in the town. The basketball benching has changed this family's routine.
As a basketball family, we go out and we actually play basketball almost every day, as a whole family, my wife included. So we don't have that right now.
And for these two little girls, it's hard to understand. Do you feel like you were you were interfering with traffic?
No, we always got out of the way and we didn't dribble or shoot when cars were coming by.
How do you feel about the town ordering you to take your net off the street?
It's really sad.
Why is that?
Because I like practicing it with my sister and my family. It's really fun with my family, but now we can't.
It's an issue that many municipalities are grappling with, balancing the right to have fun in your neighborhood with an important issue like road safety. The mayor says it's simple. The streets are no place for objects like basketball or hockey nets. And when the town receives complaints about it, they have to act.
Well, our regulation says that no object should be placed in town streets to impede traffic. And that's one of the regulations that are there. So once we get a complaint, our municipal enforcement officers are obligated to go out and check out the situation.
So why are there still nets on the road on this nearby cul-de-sac? Parents here say they have not received any warnings.
Because it is complaint driven.
But the Janeses have played ball on their street for years.
Up until this year, we have never been asked to move it, take it down. So yeah, it's frustrating.
It's like my favorite sport and the only sport I play, and with my dad. So it's kind of sad that I can't play it.
The mayor says this is a safety concern, and the town has invested heavily into recreational facilities that are purpose-built for such activities. And besides, Dan Bobbitt has a soft spot for basketball. Dan Bobbitt, did you ever play basketball on the street when you were a kid?
No, down in Hermitage, where I grew up, there wasn't paved streets, but we did play basketball at the gymnasium, and I was on the basketball team. So.
The Janeses want the freedom to shoot hoops like this again, in front of their home, with one eye on the basket and another on the traffic. Terry Roberts, CBC News, Paradise.
Well, taking a look at some of the temperatures across the country and across North America, we see lots of heat in through to Toronto, Montreal, 30, 29 degrees, and lots of heat up across Labrador as well. Those temperatures around 30 degrees in Cartwright, Makkovik at 31. In fact, that's a new record for you. Same thing for Hopedale. It was 27 degrees today. That's a new record as well. Happy Valley Goose Bay looking at 29 degrees. And we do have lots of humidity in the air as well, especially up across Labrador. 34 in Makkovik, 35 is what it feels like in Cartwright. So we still have those heat warnings in place for Happy Valley Goose Bay, Eagle River, and Makkovik. That should end as some cooler air starts to make its way in as we head through to tomorrow. Temperatures much cooler, in fact, down to the low 20s. But I will break all of that down for you because there's also a rainfall warning for parts of the southwest coast. We'll get into that when I come back.
Oh, thanks, Ashley. A large part of St. John's was without water for several hours today as a result of a water main break in the West End. City crews have rerouted water and pressure should now be restored. The city says household water may appear cloudy, milky, or have a slight chlorine smell for several hours. It's recommending people run their taps for a few minutes. The city says be aware sediment could clog any tap that has a water filter attached to it. Well, a program at the Correctional Center for Women in Clarenville aims to offer healing through horticulture. Stella's Circle first launched the gardening program last year, and as Here and Now's Henrika Wilhelm reports, there's still plenty of room to grow.
This is how most might picture life behind bars.
Attention girls, return yourselves for lock-in.
But in Clarenville, this is part of it too.
Now we have this fabulous new huge greenhouse that we're going to be able to continue our work.
That work? Horticultural therapy, using plants and gardening to improve inmates' physical, social and mental well-being.
Psychologically it helps them, gives them a sense of purpose and that they're actually accomplishing something.
It's a pretty cool modality for people who, don't necessarily benefit from traditional treatment. So it's really great for people with mental health issues, addictions issues, all that kind of stuff. Women have responded wonderfully. They talk about how it does benefit them.
One of those people is inmate Irene Hutchings. Even though she had no prior gardening experience, she took to the program.
After you did your activity, whatever you were doing in the greenhouse, they gave you this card and you get a pencil and you write down like what did you get from this experience and stuff. So I used to love writing out that, like what I learned in that. Yeah, I'm never too old to learn, right? I have to learn a lot, yeah.
A program modeled after the Phoenix Garden Project at Her Majesty's Penitentiary in St. John's for male inmates. The charity's Stella's Circle approached them about doing the same thing for women.
I was excited because I see how well it worked at HMP and I was very excited and flattered that they even offered to bring it here.
Feedback positive, especially benefiting those with a mental illness.
It clears my head, I'm able to think, I'm able to learn, and it's different things like being locked in, because when you suffer from bad mental illness, being locked in a lot is not helping. You know what I mean? You got to be out in the fresh air, right? Out doing activities, doing different things.
Women just talking about how at peace they felt, how calm they felt, how it's helped them be able to kind of, tap into a piece of themselves they didn't know that was there. We've seen women kind of helping out each other.
With the new, bigger greenhouse now installed in Clarenville, gardening season can soon begin with plans for flowers and vegetables. And while no official date is set yet, there will soon be an official opening ceremony. Henrika Wilhelm, CBC News, Clarenville.
Well, one of the main streets near Memorial University is getting some upgrades. Elizabeth Avenue is the latest street to get bike lanes added. Here and Now, Sarah Blackmore reports.
Pretty soon this street is going to be a lot harder to navigate. St. John's City Council has released plans for what it's calling street rehabilitation here on Elizabeth Avenue. Today, Council okayed a plan to upgrade crosswalks and traffic signals, redo sidewalks and pavement. It's all part of a multi-year plan to make it easier if you walk or cycle, especially as this borders Memorial University. Construction will begin on Elizabeth between Bonaventure Avenue and Westerland Road. Then the remainder of construction up to Freshwater Road is set to happen in 2024.
The main thing the main nice addition that we're doing along Elizabeth is a shared use trail for bicycles and other activities, walkers of course as well, and that's something that we're proud of. It's part of our overall plan for the city, but while we're doing this major rehab on Elizabeth, we felt this is an appropriate time to add the shared use trail.
Robin Whitaker rides her bike to the university, and she says these upgrades will make it easier for others to do the same.
We need to design infrastructure for those people that want to be biking but don't feel safe under current conditions. And I think it's great that the city is starting to look to do that more. It will really add to the quality of life in St. John's. And you know, not everybody wants to have the expense of driving all the time or can drive. Not everyone can drive. So this is a really positive move.
This project is part of a bigger plan for St. John's.
The city's evolving very well in that regard, and with the lot of input from residents and bicycle groups, etc., and other interest groups, it's been really well thought out, and I'm looking forward to an excellent evolution of these shared use paths over the coming, I would say, 5 to 10 years.
For now, those in the area will have to be prepared for a few detours as they go through their part of this grander plan.
There will be disruption, very much so, over this summer and fall, and people are well advised to find alternate routes if they can.
Hickman says people will have to put up with a big construction zone in the short term for better infrastructure in the long term. Sarah Blackmore, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, a ridge of high pressure offshore has been giving east-facing coast lots of fog, but we do have lots of showers on the way, heading towards Labrador, eventually the west coast of the island. I'll get into all the details coming up.
Well, another beautiful, balmy, sunny day in St. John's. Not. My goodness, it's another foggy one out there. It just feels never ending.
Yeah, like I remember last week we were talking about long range forecast. You're like, surely it's not going to be 16 degrees. Well, it sure
really
is. All that wind shift. Yeah, let's take a look at what's going on out there. So the ridge of high pressure is the reason. So we're seeing the winds shifting. They were easterly. They're more southeasterly now. South-southeasterly at this point, really. Or east-southeasterly, I mean. But we do have lots of sunshine earlier this afternoon anyway through parts of central. That cloud now moving in. And in fact, the fog along the south coast of the island and eastern Newfoundland will see that creep right back in further inland as we head through the night tonight. And then we've got another band of showers, not quite reaching Lab City yet, but we are going to see that as we head through the night tonight. Now, temperatures were absolutely balmy up across parts of Labrador. 30 degrees in Cartwright, 31 in Makkovik. Makkovik, Hopedale, both set new records for today. And then Happy Valley Goose Bay sitting around 29 degrees this afternoon. Temperatures across the island vary greatly from 12 degrees in Cape Race, 14 in St. John's, all the way to about 26 degrees in both Badger and Deer Lake today. And again, along the south coast of the island, those temperatures, because of onshore flow, are still into the teens. You factor in that humidex, so there's still a bit of humidity out there. Gander feeling more like 28 at the moment. Feels like 33 in Happy Valley Goose Bay, and Makkovik feels more like 34. So when we take a look at the dew points over the next couple of days, you're going to see some of that humidity still stick around for central areas of Labrador, towards the coast as well, and maybe even the west coast. Things will start to feel a bit uncomfortable, sticky or uncomfortable as we head into Wednesday. Thursday generally as well. The rest of the island pretty nice. We won't really feel that humidity, but we will as we head towards the west coast, northern peninsula even, and starting to dry out across parts of Labrador as we head into Thursday. And Friday, it'll head a little bit further north, so Happy Valley Goose Bay, you're still going to feel a little bit sticky through the afternoon hours on Friday. Here's a look at what's going on right now. Not a whole lot of cloud cover up across Labrador, but it is starting to creep further north across the island, as you can see there. And expect that fog along the south coast, like I said, to move right back in further inland as we head through the night tonight. Chance of drizzle as well, but the best chance of showers will be in Lab West as we head through the overnight. At this point, it looks like showers, maybe a few rumbles of thunder, but most of the thunderstorm activity is in fact around just to the south at the moment. And as we head into the morning hours, those showers will work their way towards Happy Valley Goose Bay. And also you're going to notice your temperatures will be cooler tomorrow. They're not going to drop much tonight though. 19 degrees in Happy Valley Goose Bay tonight. The coolest temperatures will be found in Nain at 9. Other than that, between 11 and about 17 degrees across the island. So it will stay a bit chilly the further east you go, but 17 degrees in Corner Brook. So still a fairly mild night tonight. And there's that chance of drizzle or showers I was talking about along the south coast and eastern areas of the island as well. Note these showers will work their way further east slowly through the day. By the time we get through the afternoon, we'll likely start to see some of the showers developing along the southwest, but the heavier showers, heavier rain, I should say, will move in as we head towards the supper hour. Same thing for west coast, the rest of the west coast of the island as we head into the early morning hours on Thursday. Now, rainfall warnings are in place for the southwest, I should say, around Port of Ask. So we'll see most of this rainfall tomorrow. We're talking about the potential for 30 to 50, and in some of the heavier showers, we could be seeing somewhere between 50 to 75 millimeters of rain. So falling in a fairly short period of time. But here's a look at your temperatures tomorrow. So pretty much a carbon copy of today, maybe a bit cooler towards the west coast in that rain. But overall, 16 degrees for St. John's. Oh, we may see a few peaks of sun in the afternoon, which might be nice. But other than that, cloudy, with some clearing skies through the afternoon through central and then staying cloudy. But those showers the rain showers won't really move in until we head into the evening hours for the west coast. Now for Labrador, you're looking at a cooler day tomorrow. Like I said, Happy Valley Goose Bay, 23 degrees. Heat sticks around though for the coast. You've got a couple more days of that. In fact, I'll get into those details coming up.
Tuesday is Gardening Day on CBC Radio's The Signal. Today, callers put their questions to guest host Dan Rubin, but the show took an unexpected turn when Dan got a question about how to improve a patch of thin, spindly rhubarb. He suggested a solution you can make yourself, and as you're about to hear, Dan thinks it's liquid gold.
Well, the key is nitrogen. Rhubarb is a heavy feeder and it likes lots and lots of nutrient. So nitrogen as a nutrient. And the things you can do are every year to layer a big pile of manure or seafood compost right around your plants, and that feeds the soil. The other thing, and some people will be squeamish about this, but I'm not, is the purest nitrogen you can access, which is diluted urine.
How does one go about getting diluted urine?
I'm sorry to be so blunt, but you pee in a bucket and then you mix water with it.
See, sometimes it's the simplest answer that comes out. So,
and the rain washes it away. It's sterile to begin with, but that is such a pure source of nitrogen that the fact that we flush it down the toilet is insane. We are throwing away the nitrogen our gardens and farms need every time we flush the toilet. Isn't that? When you stop and think about it,
I haven't heard this, and no one else has mentioned this. Pee in a bucket. How much do you dilute it?
Well, I dilute it lots because even though I might put a cup of urine in the bucket, I fill the whole bucket up with several gallons of water. Mm-hmm. Then it won't burn. If it's raw, it can burn. But any source of nitrogen, to be general, that you can feed to those rhubarb plants, Tess, will increase the growth. I just harvested, I think it came to about 16 pounds from my rhubarb patch, and I'm making wine with those. But that's how you build up your rhubarb, is with nitrogen.
Scenic Twillingate is taking steps to be a more dementia-friendly town for individuals and their families. What's involved in that? I'll speak more with the mayor just ahead. As our population ages, the number of people living with dementia in Newfoundland and Labrador is on the rise. The Alzheimer's Society expects there will be about 14,000 dementia patients in the province in 10 years from now. Well, one community on the island's northeast coast is taking steps to make itself a dementia-friendly place to live. Joining me now to talk more about this plan is the Mayor of Twillingate, Justin Blackler. So, Mayor Blackler, Twillingate is launching new programs to make it a dementia-friendly community. But before you get into those details, can you explain what it means to be a dementia-friendly community?
That's a good question, Carolyn. So, about 8 communities last year, a year before, were approached to try to take this on and become more dementia-friendly. We have a committee of some amazing people, and the committee wants to educate the population on what dementia means and how it affects our community, how it affects the caregivers and the individuals who have been diagnosed with dementia. We want the full public, town staff, everybody here to be educated on that. We want to provide some activities, some events that the families and the individuals can attend. And we want to try to find a way to support the caregivers for the individuals who are diagnosed with dementia. So each town is probably going to take that on in a different way, but that's kind of where we're starting to the education point and moving our way down to events and support for families.
How and why did this issue get on your radar in the first place?
Well, like you said, I think the prevalence of dementia in the province is on the increase. So I know that the health department kind of reached out to different communities, and Candy Card at our local hospital actually reached out to council. And it was just another committee. It was in the beginning, it was just another committee we're being asked to be on. And I didn't fully understand the need for it until I got there. The committee, we're very lucky to have the members on the committee that we do have. And after 2 meetings with these individuals, I completely went from being just on another committee to seeing the need and the reality of what this committee could do for our town. So we were very lucky to have people in our healthcare who were motivated to get us on board and to be moving this forward.
Can you tell us more about what you learned in that meeting? What is the need like?
It's like anything, Karen. I think we don't forget about it, but we don't focus on some of the things that are in the community. So we have an individual on our committee that has a loved one diagnosed with dementia. So she was kind of giving us stories of her own life and some incidents that had taken part in our own town of Twillingate and things you would not have known or things you may not have never heard of if you were on this committee. And it opened your eyes. It opened your eyes to the fact that I don't think we're where we need to be in terms of education of the members of our community on what dementia looks like, how you may be able to identify it, how you can respond to somebody with dementia, and some things that businesses and organizations and groups in town can do to make their facilities or their events more dementia friendly. Like, one of the simplistic things we talked about was signage. And the story came up about going to restaurants and it would be like a Tarzan or Jane for, male and female washrooms. And just having that clearly labeled can be something that can, create less confusion. And having a support system in place for these families and having events that are dedicated to people who have dementia and allowing that community to grow and support each other is where we needed to move.
Can you talk about some of the programs and the training the town is planning to introduce?
Yeah, so there's online modules or courses, and we're trying to make it as user-friendly as possible. So what we want to do, and we're starting with the town staff and the committee, is we want you to complete these online modules, and it's about education around dementia. So once you get these courses done, these online courses, it's going to take you a couple of hours. I mean, there's a little bit of a buy-in and commitment on the residents. You get a little certificate, and the certificate will be brought to the town office, and you're going to be put in for a draw. And if you're willing to take part and educate yourself a little bit on what it means to be dementia-friendly and some background on dementia, then our town's going to be better off. And, there's a little incentive to do it along the way. It's just a little way of saying we thank you for taking the time. Here's a chance at winning some great local merchandise from some great local businesses. So we want to get it out there in a positive light, and we want to make sure that this is not just a little checklist item, that we get it done right. And at the end of the day, Twillingate can actually, hang his hat on being a dementia-friendly community.
Sometimes people might shy away from dealing with someone who has dementia. It takes patience and understanding. How do you get the rest of the community on board with this plan?
I mean, we're a huge tourism community, and our operators in this town are fantastic, and we're lucky to have them. And I think the buy-in at their level is going to be amazing. I think their servers, their individuals, their workers, the owners, I think are going to be great. I think they're going to jump on board. I think a lot of the residents are going to do so as well. Our committee is made up of a lot of diverse backgrounds, ages, demographics, so I think the word's going to get out there pretty good. And I think having all those businesses on board supporting the idea, and when we get down to the events and the activities and the cafes, I think the support is going to continue to grow. And I think that at the end of the day, like, are we looking for 100% buy-in with 100% compliance and 100% education? No. But we want to be better than we are right now.
Well, Mayor Justin Blackler, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you telling us about your town's plans.
No problem, anytime.
Well, the game could be called down. That's because the mayor of Paradise is sidelining street basketball. Terry Roberts presses him on that decision just ahead. Well, is it a fun way for kids to burn off energy or a public safety issue? The town of Paradise has been warning people to get basketball nets off the streets. Mayor Dan Bobbitt defended the move. To hear now's Terry Roberts.
Well, basically this is complaint driven, so we receive complaints from residents who live in the area that complain that the basketball nets or any objects that are placed in the roadway are impeding traffic and are a danger to the moving public, whether they're on bikes or cars or whatever.
So what is the law then when it comes to these kind of objects in the streets?
Well, our regulation says that no object should be placed in town streets to impede traffic. And that's one of the regulations that are there. So once we get a complaint, our municipal enforcement officers are obligated to go out and check out the situation and check out the validity of the complaint. And if, obviously it's a piece of equipment or sporting equipment, whatever that may be, is in our roadways, then it needs to be removed.
So a street like this, I was on it today. It's a very quiet street. There's not a lot of traffic. A lot of kids on this, a lot of children on this street. So what is the worry?
Well, Sergeant Donald Lucas Drive might be quiet today when you were there, but it is a fairly busy street, Sergeant Donald Lucas Drive. Some other streets in Paradise, obviously, like some cul-de-sacs, I see people out there, maybe whatever. Yeah. But even in a cul-de-sac, the regulation, if we do get a complaint, the regulation states that no object should be placed in the roadways, and it either impedes traffic or is a danger to the traveling public.
I was on Yellowwood Drive today, and this is a very quiet street. It's a dead-end street, and not a lot of traffic. So and then right next to it, there's a cul-de-sac. There's still, I counted 3 basketball nets on the street there today. Residents there told me they haven't received any notifications, any warnings to remove those. So why are you selecting some streets and not others?
Because it is complaint driven. So if a resident who lives on that street, who came home for whatever reason in their vehicle, and it may not be busy right now, but obviously at various times, if there's one car on the street that's traveling, it is a street. It is a public thoroughfare for vehicles. So if it impedes the traffic and there's a safety issue, then we get a complaint from any resident that's on that street, then we have to follow up.
I don't know, as a leader, how do you feel when little kids, families are saying, look, you're taking away our ability to have recreation at a time. We just came through a pandemic. There's not a lot of opportunities in our neighborhood to do this, but you're taking away those opportunities. How do you respond to that?
Well, we have various parks and public areas around Paradise where you could play basketball. We have basketball courts, Peterborough Duff, all around the various neighborhoods, Lombardy Street up there as well. In your driveway maybe. If that's where you want to get out and do some physical activity, that's all good. But once we get a complaint in a public right-of-way, roadway, then we got to follow up. And unfortunately, that's the case.
Do you have the data? How many warnings have you issued? How many tickets have you issued?
I'd have to go back and check. But again, it's complaint driven. So again, these ones that are sporadic probably pop up. We get a complaint, we got to follow up. A warning ticket is probably attached to the device or whatever it may be in the roadway, with basketball net or hockey net, and that's how we follow up.
So what are the consequences of someone if they continue to violate this issue?
Well, under the traffic regulations, I guess the consequences, we'd follow up with a just written warning, but I'd have to check into the actual details of the regulations. But when it comes to any roadway, it's made for vehicle traffic, and it's not a place to be out playing as such. But again, it's public safety of both the vehicles, people driving the vehicles, and the people who are in the street playing is a concern, and it should be the utmost concern for as far as I'm concerned.
An attempt has failed to have Roseanne Archibald reinstated as National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations. Archibald was removed in June following allegations of bullying, but chiefs are holding their annual meeting in Halifax this week, and Archibald's supporters wanted a vote to bring her back. But the chiefs voted against putting it on the agenda. Archibald spoke at the meeting via teleconference.
It is a railroaded process that is unfair, that is not allowing for accountability for the political coup that happened against me by the regional chiefs.
Archibald had been calling for an audit of AFN finances, and the interim chief says they'll do that if a committee recommends a forensic audit. Ottawa is removing a snag in the use of ropeless fishing gear. It's part of an effort to protect endangered whales from entanglement in Atlantic waters. The CBC's Paul Withers reports.
Ropeless or on-demand gear allows fishing inside areas closed because endangered North Atlantic right whales have been detected. It allows fishermen to trigger the release of a buoy attached to a crab or lobster trap on the bottom that floats to the surface for retrieval. The technology is a direct response to the threat posed by gear entanglements to endangered whales. The Canadian Wildlife Federation has been testing and promoting its use with fishermen. There's just one problem.
It is illegal to put a trap on the bottom of the ocean without a marker at the surface. And of course, the use of that marker in the buoy line is what's dangerous for marine mammals. So the ability to use technology that doesn't use that buoy line is technically illegal unless you're fishing under an experimental permit.
And that's what's been going on for the last few years, experimental permits to demonstrate the effectiveness of these systems. This month, the Department of Fisheries and Oceans proposed regulatory changes that will remove this fish hook in the red tape, allowing deployment as a license condition or variation order. But barriers remain. Each trap can cost thousands of dollars, and enforcement is an issue. How does DFO detect unmarked devices on the bottom? Still, Sean Brillen estimates 1 million pounds of snow crab has been landed in Canada so far using on-demand gear. The proposed rule change, he says, clears the deck for more.
It's the first step, and it's the most important step because this is a long-standing regulation for fixed gear fisheries, is to have a surface marker at the surface, and now fisheries are transforming.
Paul Withers, CBC News, Halifax.
Well, we're about to journey back in time to rotary dial phones. And you might be surprised to learn that they are now being collected in a museum devoted to telecom history. The Connections Museum in Seattle has everything from teletype printers that were used for sending news to television broadcast equipment. And unlike a lot of museums, you're welcome to try it out.
I think there are two things that make this museum special and unique. One of them is that it is an interactive experience. Here, everything is turned on and powered up. Almost nothing is behind glass. The other thing I think that's special is that it is a living, growing, developing museum.
This switch is the only one left in the entire world. At first with this machine, there was a huge learning curve. If you know how to ride a bicycle, you could probably figure out how to ride a motorcycle. But it was really tough to find similarities in this machine with anything else I'd previously worked on. And when I touched it, more often than not, I just got a shock.
I think one of the deeply gratifying things about volunteering here is that this older technology is very physical and tangible. You can see parts moving, you can see the lights flashing.
Right, these rods that are going up and down.
Our museum continues to collect new artifacts, continues to add new equipment to our displays. We very actively search the country and the world for interesting objects that we think would be good additions. So it's a growing, developing place.
Well, some supermarkets are adding an extra layer of scrutiny to try to cut down on shoplifting. It's happening at the self-checkout lane, but as Sophia Harris reports, some customers say they're feeling targeted by the new practice.
Brian Simpson found a recent trip to Canadian Tire unsettling. After paying for his items at self-checkout, he says a security guard blocked him from leaving and demanded to see his receipt.
I don't like that they're painting us all with the same brush, that they're assuming that everyone who uses self-checkout is going to steal.
Retailers like Canadian Tire, Walmart, and Loblaw sometimes do receipt checks, so CBC News asked them if self-checkout theft is behind it. Those retailers didn't directly address the question, so we consulted the experts.
These systems are laden with opportunity potentially for people to abuse them.
UK criminologist Adrian Beck studies self-checkout theft. He says it's a growing problem because of the expansion of self-checkouts.
You've got far more customers going through who think, hey, you know what, I can take advantage of the opportunities that these systems present for me to get something for free.
Beck recently surveyed 93 retailers across the globe. They estimated that as much as 23% of their store losses were due to a combination of customer error and theft at self-checkout. This video parodies one popular trick thieves use, scanning only some of their items.
So they'll scan the oranges there, but they'll put the steak in the bag. And
this store investigator says he frequently catches shoppers in the act.
Some of them say, oh, I forgot, or I scanned, but I just didn't realize it didn't come up. They'll always have an excuse.
About 50% is theft.
Beck says receipt checks are one way retailers are combating the problem.
They are trying to amplify the sense of risk of being caught.
But receipt checks are getting pushback from shoppers.
If you're experiencing a problem with theft, maybe you need to rethink whether or not self-checkout is right for your location or your store.
But Beck says self-checkouts are here to stay, as long as the savings in labor costs are higher than self-checkout losses. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Toronto.
Okay, so before we get to the forecast, there is some renewed volcanic activity in Iceland.
Yes, and some incredible video gives us a bird's eye view. Check this out. The eruption started yesterday about 30 kilometers from the capital of Reykjavik. It's believed to have been triggered by an increase in earthquake activity in the area, and scientists think it may signal the start of a new eruption cycle.
Wow, that's incredible footage. And the good news is there are no reports of damage and no disruptions at Iceland's main international airport. Wow, look at that.
That's pretty incredible.
Incredible.
Drone footage.
Game changer,
It's
really.
game changer.
We get to see things in ways that we haven't really seen before, or would be really difficult with helicopters and whatnot.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
That's great. Okay, so I guess the big weather story is the rain for the West Coast, because there's some warnings in place. So when is that going to start to taper off?
Yeah, southwest corner of Newfoundland going to see some pretty heavy rain through to tomorrow, and then it'll start to taper off by the time we get into Thursday. Let's take a look at the future tracker. So there's that line of showers. This essentially like a fire hose of showers that we typically see in from the southern areas of the tropics. So that will continue pretty much through Thursday morning and then eventually start to taper off as it loses some steam. Otherwise, we're looking at lots of cloud cover through central portions of the island. Eastern Newfoundland will start to see some of that fog retreat back to the ocean, which will be nice. We should actually see some sunshine through the day on Thursday. Across Labrador, you're looking at the chance of showers. And also some clearing skies, though, as you head a little bit further north. There's your temperatures, 20 to 28 degrees. So the heat will continue. Well, in fact, we'll move back in for those of you for central and coastal areas of Labrador. But as far as the island is concerned, not a whole lot of change in the forecast. You're looking at about 18 degrees for the west coast. Again, south coast. looking at temperatures between 15 and 16 degrees, and then generally in the low 20s through portions of central. Now, St. John should reach 19 degrees on Thursday. Again, some peaks of sun will be in the mix as well, which will be welcome considering it has been fairly foggy, especially for most of the metro area anyway. Now, as we head into Thursday evening and into eventually Friday, it's still going to be unsettled. Still looking at that chance of showers, though, for the south coast of the island, west coast, even portions of central may see a few showers roll through. There should be some sun, though, especially for the Avalon and most of eastern Newfoundland, really, and then showers again, the story up across Labrador as we head into the later part of the day. First of all, though, we should see some sunshine through Happy Valley Goose Bay, about 27 degrees. As you head towards the northern peninsula, temperatures starting to climb. 19-20 degrees should be the afternoon high with some sunshine. And then again, that chance of showers through portions of central and along the south coast. So still in the teens for those of you along the south coast, but temperatures should warm up to about 21 for Friday for St. John's. Long range forecast at this point looking dry and not too bad into the 20s. By the time we get into Sunday, though, we may see a few showers and about 23 degrees, teens as our overnight temperatures. And then for central Newfoundland, Saturday, Sunday, looking pretty nice, 25, 26 degrees, a little cooler for western Newfoundland, but overall not a bad weekend at this point. Eastern Labrador, you're looking at your temperatures into the high 20s, lots of sunshine, but showers the story for the west. Here's our photo of the day today, a lovely shot there of a rainbow over New Harbour. Karen shared this lovely shot with us, obviously out probably fishing. If you'd like to share any photos with us, you can send them to my Facebook page there or email them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, that's a great shot. I've been hearing that the fishing has been really good, the food fishery.
Lovely. Haven't been out yet.
Everyone's saying that they're going out and they're getting their fish right away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's it for us on this Tuesday evening. Thank you so much for spending part of your night with us.
Good night.